So don't take any candy from people that have come out with like, their hands all covered in sort of
Right.
bandages and stuff. Unless
Yes,
the rest of them
yes.
is, because they could be a mummy. But yes, if it's just a hand, it's just like, here, have some of this. You'd just be like, no, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes. That's excellent life advice for all kinds of situations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special relationship, the show that straddles the Atlantic in a completely consensual way. I'm your host from the Phoenix News Network, Andrea Bridges-Smith, and with me here is my favorite Brit and yours from the Interesting Times. It's Matt Johnston. Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Andrea.
Now, Matt, I heard that there is a bit of drama going over there, using the, traditional English penchant for understatement. What is the
Yeah.
latest?
Yeah, well, Andrea, it's all kicking off over here with the COVID inquiry, which is really not looking good for the government of the day, which was led by Boris Johnson, if you remember, and his second in command at the time, who was a chap called Rishi Sunak.
Right.
Yes. So he's obviously the first in command now. So it's not looking good for any of them. There's been damaging revelation after damaging revelation. People have described Boris Johnson's complete hopelessness and the worst person for that type of crisis, which begs the question, what crisis would he be suited for? And the only one I can come up with is Latin-speaking homophobic after dinner speaker.
Yeah, I think he'd probably be pretty good at that, actually.
Yeah, I think he would definitely knock that one out of the ballpark, certainly, as you Americans would want to say. Yes.
Yes,
You can
yes.
kind of see why they didn't want the WhatsApp coming out. In the only group they deleted the WhatsApp for is the one with Boris Johnson in. Now, like everything else, this isn't quite the full story. There is another character at play. It's a chap called Dominic Cummings. Have you heard of Dominic Cummings, Andrea?
I've heard the name, but I do not know anything about him.
Think of him as a racist Rasputin. Or as a Steve Bannon without hair. A
Oh,
bald Steve Bannon, if you like. Yeah, I mean, forget
yikes.
Farage and Johnson. This is a man who single-handedly is responsible for Brexit and the elevation of Johnson to the highest office in the country. He's sort of a Machiavellian mastermind, if you will.
Mm,
He was there to fill in the gaps for Johnson. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of gaps.
right.
If you've ever seen the thick of it, have you seen the thick of it?
No.
It's not on TV anymore. It's a wonderful sort of, I think it was BBC or Channel 4 show, and it's a mockumentary about the workings of going on in government and stuff, and quite true in a lot of occasions. Anyway, he's the equivalent of the Malcolm Tucker character in that, swearing and all, for anybody watching that's familiar with that particular show.
Ah,
So without sounding like a soap opera, Dominic Cummings and Lee Keynes, two government advisors, had a falling out with Johnson's other half, Carrie, who they called Princess Nut Nut.
I am dying to know how they arrived at that nickname. That's really weird.
Yeah, I'll be honest, me too. Now, here's the thing. It has actually been denied, which, as we all know, is political talk for it definitely happened.
Right.
So, Cummings and Kane left in November 2020, and hell have no fury, like a government advisor scorned. And he has a lot of these WhatsApps, including calling cabinet ministers cunts, feral pigs, and morons. And the whole thing is just a shit show. Not my word for it, but one of the top advisors to the government. Things got so bad that during the BBC live broadcast, they had to cut back to the studio to apologize for the language. But as far as any answers, don't expect anything soon, as the inquiry isn't expected to wrap up until 2025 at the earliest.
I'm kind of surprised that the language was that bad. I thought you guys tend to understate things. I would have thought that they would call him, like a difficult chap or something like that. But wow,
If it's called for it, we can swear we're the best of them, and this definitely called for it.
I also heard that Boris Johnson told his senior advisors that the COVID virus was just nature's way of dealing with old people, which is absolutely awful. I generally agree that more young people in government is a good thing, until I look at your prime ministers who have been decreasing in age since Theresa May. Rishi Sunak is only 1 year older than me, and then I think, yeah, maybe let's see what the gray hairs have to say about it,
Yes, yeah, that's fair, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, Boris Johnson didn't understand any of the statistics being put in front of him. At one stage, they showed him this chart, which showed that people, the average dying age was 81 in the country. And then people that were living, the average age of getting COVID, people were dying around about 82. And he was like, well, get COVID and live longer. It's like, you really haven't followed this at all, have you?
What?
You know, it's just like, you really haven't just understood anything that's going on. And of course, he's not coming out of this at all well. In fact, one of the top aides has now said that she can't remember a single day they kept to the lockdown rules. Boris Johnson not keeping to the rules. I'll tell you, Andrea, I'm shocked. Shocked.
I'm just as shocked as you are, Matt. So I am curious, though. You mentioned that this was going to go until 2025. Why is this inquiry supposed to take so long? Isn't it pretty clear that BoJo screwed up during COVID by having parties, among other things? I mean, don't we kind of know how this is going to turn out?
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing they want to stretch it all out. I mean, leaving no stone unturned to locate all these bugs and worms. It is sort of enticing, but yes, I think by the time they wrap it all up, we'll all be like, we know, you know,
Right.
it is heading for the least surprising ending since Titanic. So any more news on the new speaker? Is Mike Johnson, no T, is Mike Johnson still there?
At the moment, yes, he is still the House Speaker, but I don't envy him because things have gotten pretty chaotic. For anybody who thought that the House was going to calm down after we got the Speaker election over with, you were incorrect. So this week we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to censure Rashida Tlaib. We have another representative that's trying to censure Marjorie Taylor Greene. They tried to kick out George Santos, but that failed because all the party really cares about is power, and he's one of them. Then we've got the House Speaker himself, who is at odds with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, who is a member of his own party. And, you know, the government might shut down in a couple of weeks. So nice and calm over here, very relaxing. It's, you know,
Wow.
the scent of lavender oil is in the air.
Bit of meditation.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds extraordinary. Is the Republican Party imploding then, Andrea? Is that fair to say?
I mean, one can only hope. I don't know if they will actually implode, but there is this fracture within the party right now. So you've got the moderates who have been in government for a long time, and they know how the sausage gets made. And then you have this other group who wants to do things differently. And in theory, that's something I think we can all agree with. There's always room for improvement. But their idea for doing things differently is to burn down the sausage making plant and the sausage and the pigs and the entire sausage apparatus. And so, you know, while they may be well-meaning, there's a little problem with the execution there.
Wow. Just extraordinary to watch. I mean, the good news is that obviously it's keeping us, you know, in with something to talk about on our respective channels, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we certainly have plenty of material. I wouldn't mind a lighter material week for our collective sanity, but, you know, at least you and I aren't bored.
Yes. A week where we'd have a bit more avalanche of kittens comes into the country or something. You know what I mean? You're saying, oh, kittens everywhere. There's
kittens everywhere. You know, that sounds heavenly.
A pandemic of kittens. That's what
we've got. Pandemic of kittens.
So you talked about rather eloquently about all the Republicans, but one that you haven't talked about, your favorite and well, in fact, not even your favorite, nobody's favorite, the Donald, who has made another goof and confused Turkey and Hungary. Well, Christmas is only just over 7 weeks away.
Right.
And he said that Hungary or Turkey, not sure which one he's talking about, shares a border with Russia. I mean, it doesn't actually matter, I suppose, because neither of them do share a border with Russia. Andrew, is this sort of open mouth insert foot ritual a daily occurrence with the Orange Menace?
Indeed it is. He also this week got Sioux Falls and Sioux City mixed up on the campaign trail. Turns out that geography is not his strong suit, and neither is diplomacy, democracy, standing normally, parenting, or marital harmony. He has a lot of, shall we say, opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably the most positive thing that you can say about him, really.
It's as nice as I can be. But in other news from Trump world, this is interesting. His offspring are testifying in court this week in his fraud trial. And Matt, just to clarify, this is his business fraud trial, not his election fraud trial. A lot of things to keep straight there. So Donald Jr. took the stand yesterday and essentially said that he has never heard of the word accounting, and the way that he signs documents is he takes off his necktie and ties it around his eyes, and then someone guides his hand to the signature line and he just
Of
scribbles
course.
away.
That's how you
You
do good
know,
business. Yeah.
you, Matt, you cannot expect him to know things about a business that he is running. That's just not fair, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
It's ludicrous. So Eric is going to be testifying today, and dear old dad and his favorite child Ivanka are going to testify next week. So that should be interesting.
I got to be honest, it's kind of making my head spin. So thank you for keeping on top of that, as much as you can, Andrea. But here's the question. Have people waited to indict Trump because they didn't want to do it while he was president? Is that really why all this stuff is coming out now?
I think that's part of it. So there were claims when he was president that he had some sort of like presidential immunity, which I think is pretty dubious. If your president is screwing up, you ought to be able to do something about it. But I also think that it's just a question of volume. When you have committed as many crimes as he allegedly has, you kind of leave this trail of paperwork in your wake, and it takes a long time to sort through just the stacks of paperwork, and there's so many co-conspirators. You got to interview them all. It's time consuming, and I think that's the other big part of it.
Yeah, it's a lot to unravel while you're watching him unravel. So, Andrea, with Trump, with all these indictments, and with me, obviously, with all this COVID inquiry, I don't really envy either of us. But hey, as I say, there's plenty more to talk about on our respective channels.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
a bit lighter news now, Andrea. Well, got some royal news. I love my royal news, right?
I do.
Well, a couple of the chairs that were sat on by royal dignitaries who are watching our king being crowned. Long live the king! I mean, he's 74, so, well, fingers crossed.
Not if Boris Johnson has anything to say about it.
Yeah, the total raised by 4 of these chairs being sold off was over £32,000. And that money is going to, amongst other things, a homeless charity. See? The multi-millionaire that has a 775-roomed summer house and owns half of Cornwall does really care.
Matt, I wonder how much value our asses could add to a chair just by sitting in it. They're always telling you to shake your moneymaker, but apparently all you have to do is park it in a chair and voila, money shows up.
Yeah, I think I called him the Kerching King in one of my videos.
Why? Was it because he was getting out of a bathtub full of rubies or something?
Yeah.
Something to do with it? Yeah.
Yeah. How would you wash yourself? That would be really painful, wouldn't it? Washing yourself in rubies.
I bet he finds a way.
Andrea, last week you tested me on some southern states type phrases. The week before, I tested you on Yorkshire language. This week, it is my turn for the testing.
Okay.
I've got some Halloween type testing. It was Halloween, of course, last week. Well, just a couple of days ago. And I thought it would be nice to test you on some spooky Halloween type stuff. Fancy giving it a go?
Yes, absolutely. I do nothing but consume a fire hose of news all day, every day. So I'm used to things being scary. So let me have it.
Wonderful stuff. So, true or false? Can I read my own writing? Okay, here we go. True or false? This is true or false. Question number 1. Trick or treating endured from a tradition called souling. Is that true or false?
I'm gonna go with false.
It's actually true. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the original sort of thing for trick or treating, it was called. All right. Question number 2. America was the first to come up with jack-o'-lanterns to lighten the night. Is that true or false?
I am gonna say false. I feel like somebody else came up with that idea first.
You are right. It was the Irish. They brought it over with them. So there we go.
All right.
From a character called Stingy Jack.
Stingy Jack.
I guess Jack wasn't much for getting rounds in, that sort of thing.
All right. All
All
right.
right. Question number three, true or false? The film Halloween with the
Yes.
Michael Myers, the chap with the blue boiler suit and the big dagger and the white mask.
Yeah.
That mask is a copy of the producer's head. Is that true or false?
That sounds like something that would be true.
It's actually false. Would you believe? There's a wonderful side story to this. It's William Shatner's head from when he used to make Star Trek. So when you watch those Halloween films again, it's actually William Shatner's head. Crikey. Yeah.
Wow.
Immortalized, as it were. Yeah. Okay. This true or false? Here we go. The word witch comes from the Old English to mean bride of the devil. So these women would become witches to entice the devil. That would be the idea. Is that true or false?
I could definitely see that being very true. I'm going to go with true on that one.
I'm afraid it's false. It actually
Oh,
comes from the Old English wiki, which is WICCE, which means wise women. And
huh.
with that in mind, I would like to give an apology to Liz Truss. I'm sorry for calling you a witch.
Oh.
Oh, just one final question. It's not true or false. Let's see how you do on this, though.
Okay.
In what century did trick or treating start?
Um, I'm gonna say I think that would have started in the 1800s.
It's actually the 20th century.
Oh, okay.
Second part to this one. Do you know which decade trick or treating started?
Uh, the the 40s?
It's actually the 1970s.
1970s, really that
Yeah, I know.
recent?
That seems scarily late, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I would have thought it would have been much sooner.
Yeah. That's when virtually everything, before then, people would have the opportunity to hand over different things like, I imagine, little bits of toys or whatever they made. But this one, it's all about candy. That's why people come
So
out.
so here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you guys hand out the candy over there?
Yes. Here's the thing, is that that's a relative thing. I never did it as a kid, but to be fair, I lived on a farm miles from anywhere. So I don't think any of us, I'm trying to remember if any of us did it as a kid. No, none of us did it as a kid. So it's
Okay.
really a fairly, well, maybe not that recent sort of thing. It's, about 30 years old, I think, over here. But it's each year
Okay.
it's getting more and more popular.
So are there any weird things that you hand out over in the UK to children that are not candy? Because I took my kids trick or treating this week,
Hmm.
and we got a few weird things in the bag, along with a lot of candy, way too much candy. But I'm curious if you guys have any weird things that you hand out.
I guess you can stick like plastic spiders, that sort of thing. I think one
Okay.
time I actually handed out apple pies, and they had they had the reaction that you'd expect for people expecting chocolate and candy. You know, apple, isn't that like a fruit? Yeah.
God forbid we put nutrition in the children. So my kids, one of them ended up with a can of Sprite, uh, which
Right.
was like, okay, well, you're covered on sugar at least.
Yeah.
It's not chocolate, but the sugar's still there. There was one house that was handing out dollar bills. So just,
That's
I don't
lazy.
know,
That's just lazy. That's people that haven't made an effort at all.
but the kids, they were delighted. And I was like, I wonder if that was someone who was, going to go to the strip club later with a stack of ones and then remembered what night it was. They're like, oh shit, plan B, we'll hand these
That's
out instead.
that's not good. Opening the door to a chap doing this.
Yes, yes, making it rain for the little children. And then there was one house that was, and this was kind of cool. The kids were very delighted by this, but I just thought it was very extravagant. There were these canisters, like these large canisters, um, and they had like Pokemon cards and little coins and like little collectible thingies in there.
Wow.
It was very elaborate, and each kid got
Mm.
this like huge canister of Pokemon stuff. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
those people went all out. So yeah,
Yeah.
those were some of the weirder things. Another question I have for you is there is this old story that's been around for a long time that people are going to put razor blades and drugs into the Halloween candy. Is that a rumor over there?
I haven't heard that one. The razor blade one is something that you hear when it comes to it's sort of one of those urban myths, if you like. It's
Yeah,
I don't think it's ever really happened, but it's one of those where you hear when people talk about produce in supermarkets, that sort of thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, not in the way of sort of candy and stuff like that. I haven't heard it anyway, but who knows?
Well, I mean, the logical thing is to remember that drugs are not free, and so giving them to children that you will never see again, there's not really much of a purpose in that. It seems like you would want to sell them. It's
Yeah,
one thing to say, "Hey, kid, try this," and then come back if you like it, and you the first one for free, get them hooked, kind of a thing. But if you're just handing it to a child and then not telling them, and they never see you again, like that's just not a good business model, you
it's
know.
not
So
really. And the other thing that occurred to me when it comes to the razor blades is you would have to, if you were to make them particularly vicious, you'd have to break them out of the plastic covering, of course. So don't take any candy from people that have come out with their hands all covered in sort of
right.
bandages and stuff. Unless
Yes,
the rest of them
yes.
is, because they could be a mummy. But yes, if it's just a hand, it's just like, here, have some of this. You'd just be like, no, thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes. That's excellent life advice for all kinds of situations.
Okay, Andrea. So I have to say, I've got to be honest on this one. You were spookily bad on that one, Andrea. I'm sorry, you
I
only got a
was.
couple right. But
I
on that
was.
note, I hope everyone did have a great Halloween. And remember, don't worry, there's no such thing as monsters, right, Andrea?
Right.
Ah!
Ah!
So I stand corrected. Thanks, everyone. If you want to see more of me, I've got my own channel. It's called At the Interesting Times UK. You can find out about all the slimy, blimey, limeys. And Andrea's channel is at Phoenix News Network. And what you're here already, so why not just subscribe? Now, we're not here next week, but the week after. So have yourselves a good week. Take care.
Bye-bye.